Okay, we have to talk about Zombies 5 because after watching Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires, I just can't stop thinking about where this story is going next. The good news is, we know a lot about what will happen next in the franchise. Let me start by saying, Zombies 4 felt like a road trip, a goodbye, and a beginning all rolled into one. Crazy, I know. The movie picked up with Zed and Addison heading off on a summer trip with Eliza and Willa. But what should have been a relaxing adventure turned into something way bigger when they stumbled into the rival towns of Sunnyside and Shadyside. That's when we met the Daywalkers and Vampires, which are basically two new supernatural groups who had been raised to hate each other. And right in the middle of all that tension, we met two new, and honestly very promising, characters. Victor and Nova. Victor and Nova weren't just there to be new faces. Right away, it was obvious that they were the emotional heart of this next chapter in the franchise. Victor was from the vampire side. He could harness the power of the wind, and he was full of energy and curiosity, always looking beyond what his world told him he should be. Nova was a daywalker with the ability to harness the power of the sun. She lived in perpetual daylight under the rule of her dad, Commander Bright, and had this sense of responsibility weighing on her. But when Victor and Nova met, something simply clicked. It was like watching the early days of Zed and Addison all over again. And let's be honest, we all miss those days. Well, turns out that was totally intentional. Meg Donnelly recently said in an interview, "I think the movie does that on purpose, to give Zombies fans that nostalgia of Zed and Addison in the first movie." There are a lot of parallels with Victor and Nova, and that's what makes this movie so special. It's like we're passing the torch in a way. So, even though we still had Zed and Addison there, Zombies 4 wasn't really their story anymore. The movie was basically about watching the next generation step up. And I don't know about you guys, but I loved that. Victor and Nova had this natural chemistry, this connection that felt genuine. They weren't trying to replace Zed and Addison by any means, but they were absolutely continuing what those characters started. Of course, the music played a huge part in all of that. The Zombies 4 soundtrack gave us 9 original songs, 2 reprises, including Ain't No Doubt About It and Someday, and some truly iconic new numbers. One of my personal favorites was Show the World, as Freya Sky, who plays Nova, said in an interview. It's a really happy song, and it summarizes everything the movie talks about. And Malachi Barton, who plays Victor, called it the big closer. And speaking of emotional highs, Milo Manheim said filming the Ain't No Doubt About It reprise in New Zealand was his favorite day on any set, ever. He said, "Obviously, that song means a lot to us, but there was something very special about that day. The clouds parted, and it was just so beautiful. It was a moment for me and Meg to reflect on everything we've been through with this franchise, and it just felt like everything was leading up to that moment." So what happens now? Well, you know what? That's where things get really exciting. The end of Zombies 4 didn't just wrap things up neatly. There was a very clear tease involving a supernatural water spout, and yes, it absolutely looked like it was hinting at mermaids. Yes, you heard it right, the mermaids. And here's where things get even more interesting. Milo Manheim and Meg Donnelly have both talked a lot about the future of the franchise, and they're clearly hopeful for a Zombies 5. In an interview with Deadline, Milo said, "I think that one of the amazing things about this franchise is that we've kind of created this universe that can go any direction. We're really just expanding and literally getting outside of Seabrook. So I'm curious to see what happens. I think the world could always use another Zombies movie." Meg added, "I feel like this movie, because the 4 of us are involved, it's very split between the two. I think it's literally just the start of the kids' story, and I feel like there needs to be another one to tell their story." Well, I don't know about you guys, but that really sums it up for me. For all of us who've been watching since 2018, it's been about Zed and Addison. But now, it's about Nova and Victor, and both Milo and Meg are fully on board with that transition. Meg said, "I think they deserve their own movie where they're fully just the 2 leads, and it's about them because their story is so special and so cute." Milo even called Zombies 4 the beginning of a new trilogy, as he said, "It's almost like the first 3 movies were one trilogy, and then this is like the start of another trilogy." The question now is, will Disney make Zombies 5? As of right now, it hasn't been officially announced, but it seems like it all depends on how well Dawn of the Vampires performs on Disney Plus in its first month. If it brings in the kind of subscriber numbers the earlier films did, we could easily see Disney greenlight another one. And if the pattern holds, we might be looking at a 2027 or 2028 release date. But here's the thing, even if Zombies 5 happens, there's no guarantee Zed and Addison will be in it. Both Milo and Meg have expressed interest in stepping back, possibly serving as executive producers instead of appearing on screen. That would give them the chance to shape the story and keep it connected to the spirit of the original movies, even if they're not front and center anymore. And honestly, I'd be okay with that, as long as their influence is still there. That said, I do feel like a Zombies movie without Zed and Addison would feel a little strange. Not because Victor and Nova aren't strong enough to lead, because, surprisingly, I think they totally are. But because the franchise has always been built on the chemistry of its lead couple. Victor and Nova echo that in a lot of ways, but they're still early in their journey. They'll need a Zombies 5 to truly step out of that shadow and claim the franchise as their own. Nevertheless, let me know if you are excited for this new age in the Zombies franchise or not. For more weekly updates on Zombies and other Disney franchises, make sure to like and follow. Meanwhile, the video on the screen might also interest you.